And now we move to Pakistan to discuss the murder of a journalist who was renowned there and around the world, killed while he was in the country of Kenya. To discuss his murder, why it may have happened, who was responsible, and what impact this has had on people in Pakistan and the industry of journalists in Pakistan, we're very happy to welcome on our special guest, Murtaza Dar, who is, some of you may know, a prominent Pakistani journalist and television host. And we're very happy to have him here to discuss this sad and horrific development. So first, assalamu alaikum, Murtaza, thank you so much for joining us today, especially, on these difficult circumstances, the loss of one of your colleagues. Can you first tell us, what happened to this journalist, to Arshad? Well, what happened to him?
Right. So there's this news that came popped around late in the night here in Pakistan, around 4 a.m. in the morning, and it was the Monday morning actually, and the Sunday night, and the news was really shocking. And the news was about that Arshad Sharif, a renowned journalist who is not in Pakistan, who has actually fled away from Pakistan a couple of months ago. He's been shot dead. So at the first moment, it was like, it was something which was not, acceptable to the most of the people here and along with the journalists. So it took us around like 20, 30 minutes to, just collect the news. And finally we got the confirmation. Right after that, things just were there on television screens and everyone was talking about that, how this has happened. So the thing which actually came in front of us all after this, whatever has happened, is that he was shot dead and he was stopped by the police there in Kenya while he was on his way from a shooting range where he went with the guy from Ahmed for some leisure time. And while he was on his way from there to Nairobi, which is like 80 or 90 kilometers away from that shooting area, he was stopped by the police and they stopped them with help of some stones, putting the stones on the road, and they didn't stop. So when they didn't stop, they just shot at them. And now the question is why they wanted to stop them, because they got a call, as per police, of a stolen vehicle, which also includes a child in that. So they were trying to track and trace that car, and they mixed that car with a Sharif's car, and they didn't stop, and they just, shot on that car 9 times. And luckily, the driver who was driving the car did not get hit by any of the shots, and Arshad Sharif got a bullet in his head, and he died. So this is the version which the Kenyan police has given to all of the masses of the media. And some of the people are buying this and some are not. And then when this news came, the local officials here contacted the people in Kenya and they want to get information from them that what exactly has happened. So from both sides, the information which came was that he was shot by the police with a mistake, a human error, and this is exactly what has happened. Since this has happened, uh, with the person who is a journalist, who is an investigative journalist, who is on run. He fled from his country. He went to UAE first, and then there were reports that UAE authorities were not allowing him to stay there. And there were also reports that there was a pressure on them to send him back to Pakistan, but they somehow held him, and he fled from there to Kenya, or they gave him an option. So when he went to Kenya, there this all happened.
So, Mortaza, tell us more about Arshad. Who was he? Why was he important to journalists in Pakistan? And why had he fled the country? What happened to him? What was the concern?
Arshad was basically an investigative journalist, and he is there and always there on all those stories, which require some kind of investigative work. And he's been exposing and working against all those cartels or those criminals or all those people sitting in the power corridors who have ever done any kind of corruption, and he's been exposing that. And lately, the information we got was that he was working on a documentary which was about to expose some of those things, which might have come as a surprise for many people, some of the masses, and some of the people he's going to expose or thought of exposing. So this was mainly his work. He has also worked as in his initial days as a reporter. He has also worked in the newsroom as a director of news as well. He has also worked as a bureau chief as well. He has also worked as an anchor as well. So lately he was working as an anchor and was doing investigative journalism. And he was considered one of those people who were the critique of especially Pakistan Muslim League Noon, one of those parties which has ruled the country for like a couple of times, 3 or 4 times in different parts and in different stages, and the Sharif family. So he exposed their corruption to a great extent. And some of people here think that exposing them is one of the things which costed him, but this is just theories like many of the theories which are going on the social media and elsewhere right now. And there are lots of things and facts which still needs to be done. But as you have asked about his work, it was more about following the story, not just running the mail, but thinking and digging deep down to all those facts which are not brought in front of the people. And so his efforts were all this to bringing all those things in front of people actually.
Understood. Now, his decision to leave the country, what was he coming under some sort of legal threat? Was he getting, violent threats? What made him decide to leave Pakistan for his safety?
He has mentioned this a few times that he's been threatened by some authorities and some officials to stop doing this, whatever he's doing. And he was doing, of course, his work, which was an investigative journalism. Also, there were FIRs, which is the first information report, like filing complaint against someone, and FIRs got registered against him uh, frequently, swiftly, rapidly, like 25, 26 FIRs altogether against him. So he was being basically circled by the authorities, as he mentioned, legally on a legal ground or a legal platform, which would put pressure on him. He might would have to go to jail, and there's a possibility he can get arrested by the police and authorities. So basically, what we all get is he wanted to escape from this all and to continue his work. Because getting hold of, or they getting hold of him is something which would stop his work. So he never wanted to stop his work. He wanted to continue his work. And for that, he thought of a solution. And for that, he went from here to UAE, the reports that we got. And when he went there in an effort to continue his work, the authorities here in Pakistan reached the UAE authorities and asked them and pressurized them and pushed them to send him back. So they gave him an option that, okay, we won't send you back, but we're gonna let you stay here. So think of any other country or your country and go back. So from there he went to Kenya. This is the reports that we've got, and whatever happened with him, I've just told you that happened in Kenya.
So, what is the impact of his murder had in Pakistan among the people in general and among Pakistani journalists? Where does the country go from here? I think you noted there are some suspicions, as now unproven. But what's the impact of this on the people and on journalists in Pakistan?
People are not buying this at all, that he's been shot with a mistake by the police of Kenya. Everyone, or most of the people here, knows it, or the thing, or the belief that he's been killed. And it's a target killing that has happened with him. And he's been killed because somebody has crossed his limits. And he has exposed, or he was trying to expose some of those power people sitting in the power corridor, which was beyond his limits. And some believe that he was shot or he was killed by those who he already exposed. So in other way around, or you think either way, most of the people that I get, they know he got killed. No accident happened, no mistake happened. So he paid the price of what he was doing.
So then, what happens next? If there are questions about his murder and who was actually responsible, if you've got this kind of chilling incident for journalists in Pakistan, where do you think this goes next? Is the Pakistani government going to do anything to investigate on its own what happened here? What is, is there, the family has to intervene? What do you think happens next?
The government has, of course, reached the Kenyan government, and the current prime minister has called the president of Kenya and asked him to do some fair and free investigations. But this, I guess, is just a routine call or a formality that he has done. I mean, it may have some, of course, they would think that the prime minister has called up and they're following the case, but the result would not be different, or whatever Kenyans have decided they would do it. They've also sent local authorities of Pakistan also sent a team of two people in Kenya to investigate and to find out, to take the facts about his murder. And this definitely would, based on the support and help they're going to get from the Kenyan authorities. And now this is a question that how much would they help them in order to, investigate that whatever they would want to investigate. But also another thing that Prime Minister of Pakistan has requested in order to form a judicial commission. But if we look at the history, we do not get any solid results with the judicial commissions or the committees or the investigation teams or the JITs, whoever tried digging out the attacks on journalists in Pakistan. I can quote you many examples, even the example of Ahmed, one of the renowned journalists of Pakistan, who was attacked in 2014, like 8 years ago. There was a judicial commission formed who was tasked to tell that what actually happened with him. After 8 years, he survived through TV. He's alive. After 8 years, he could not get hold of the findings of those judicial commission's report. So I, along with many other journalists, believe that this is just an eyewash, and this is just to fulfill the formalities, and nothing would come out. Arshad is gone, like many other journalists in Pakistan and across the world, of course, like Jamal Khashoggi is another example of it. I mean, the blame game continues and the culprits never get caught. And this is exactly what is going to happen in this case as well.
It is disturbing to think of how many journalists, Jamal Khashoggi, Shireen Abu Akleh, now Arshad, have been killed in recent years. I assume that this murder, whatever was behind it, is only going to embolden Pakistani journalists to do their job, more fiercely, more resolutely. Do you say that's the case, or do you think, frankly, some journalists might be afraid to dive into certain stories?
I would believe that it has its impact. I mean, the purpose is to stop someone from doing whatever the person was doing and to send a message. They stop the person and they've sent a message. But this is for a short time. It would remain here, but the fear would go away. Time, circumstances, and things do change many things. This will go on, and I mean, it's like a seesaw. Uh, this is their time. Well, ever thought of stopping, they should end it stop. And they've sent their message of fear, and they would have it for some time, not more than for a longer time. After best of some time, the journalism would not stop. Another Arshad Sharif would come, would rise, and this would go on. So it's like a seesaw. I mean, it goes turn by turn. This is the turn of those who have stopped pressure, and who are stopped would stop for some time, but they would continue their work and they would rise. And the next few maybe months, weeks, I don't know, but soon.
All right. Thank you again, Murtaza, for joining us. We really appreciate it. We look forward to having you back in the future, inshallah, to gather more information about the investigation, any new developments. And again, our condolences to you, to all the journalists in Pakistan, and to the family of Arshad. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for having me.